This is going to sound crazy and very hyperbolic and out of control, but I really believe it when I say that the new feature that ChatGPT just released last week is actually larger than actual ChatGPT itself, and it's memory. And if you ask anyone from Silicon Valley, if you asked me last week, if you asked the random investor off the street, they would have told you last week that AI and intelligence was rapidly decreasing to zero. It was becoming commoditized. And these large language models that were paying tons of money into training these things are losing money. But I think that all changes because of this new thing called memory. And it's basically the walled garden that OpenAI has just deployed onto the world of AI, and everyone is trying to react to it and figure out how big it is. And I really want to start by talking about that. So Ejaaz, I know you've heard about this. Do you have any takes on this? Because I am like super stoked on how important this is to the AI community.
Well, it's really interesting. You're stoked, and I'm kind of like having an existential crisis, Josh. Okay, so to summarize what you just said, I think OpenAI just won the race, the AI model race, and that's because memory is the mode, right? So I'm serious. So the TLDR, right?
We're coming out firing this week.
ChatGPT can now reference chat history. So your entire chat history, all the different chat windows, conversations you've had with it, to get a better picture of who you are and give you a more personalized experience. That's what the corporate tagline says, right? But there's a much more important and, like, in my opinion, sinister reckoning behind this, which I actually documented here in a tweet, which is people are about to just confide their darkest and most personal secrets, fears, concerns to this model, right? And what do they get in exchange for that? Well, they're going to get a new best friend. They're going to get a life coach. They're going to get a therapist. They're going to get a teacher. Heck, they're even going to get a parent that they never even had, perhaps even a lover, right? And all of them are going to be the same person because this model is going to end up knowing all about you, right? And do you guys realize how much data OpenAI will control from all of this? It's insane. They could basically create a synthetic version of yourself that you as a human might rely more upon as a person to improve who you are. It's just insane.
Can we put some, let's get into the details of this actual memory update, because I think it's one of these things that it's actually a very incremental, marginal change that I think Josh is getting very long-term, bullish, excited about the implications of that change. So I have my ChatGPT page pulled up. So you guys are now all looking into a window of my recent conversations with ChatGPT. And each one has these different, every time I opened ChatGPT up, it opens up a new chat. It opens up a new log, a new stream of dialogue with ChatGPT. And I have just all the things that I've asked it, right? Where is the North Face logo coming from? The dollar milkshake theory explained, Ethereum's market cycles, just all this different stuff. And to my understanding, with the update here, is that ChatGPT can now just reference across chats about my history of my conversations with ChatGPT. So I'm kind of confused as to why this is such a big deal, because it seems like OpenAI already had all of this capacity to begin with. So why is this so revolutionary?
Well, the point around this is, if you look at all those chats on your sidebar, David, those are essentially really supercharged Google searches, right? You're asking about Ethereum's market cycle. You're looking at some random theory, right? But the model doesn't track your personality or your thoughts or your moods or your kind of vibes across either of the chats, right? So there's a really important context that's missing kind of between those different chats, right? And at the end of the day, what people really want, and technological trends have proven this over time, is depth, right? We've seen a trend of people voluntarily giving AI actually more information than they would to a close friend or a family member. They're addicted to that kind of dopamine hit of being able to divulge something personal to the AI and get a tailor-made response. Now, to your earlier question, you're like, didn't OpenAI have access to this data already? Why was this not already a thing? Well, there's a separation between the AI model itself, which are, its model design, the weights, the training data, and all of that kind of stuff, and your own personal data that's being kind of ragged and fed back into the model in real time and giving live context to the AI. And that's the real major shift that's happened. Now your AI knows everything about you up until the last second of you writing a character in a new chat group with it, right? So it'll know things like, with this new update, it'll be able to learn things about things that you like, what types of things you want to learn about, what times do you search for things, like, kind of like your habits, what's most important to you, what are your life goals, heck, what makes you even anxious, David, what physical health problems you have, what mental health issues you might have. And it'll use this, right, in a really smart way, right? So the AI will
Mm.
become more like a close personal friend for you, or it'll act like a mentor you never knew you needed.
So there's no like deep like breakthrough in terms of technology here. This is more of a mechanistic change with how OpenAI ingests and interprets and manages the data that you give it as you are using ChatGPT. So that's why it's a pretty subtle change, but like some small but like precise and targeted changes can lead to like very big outcomes. So I understand that. Josh, why do you think that this is such a big deal? Like why are you saying that this is the biggest update since ChatGPT itself?
Yeah, so for the first part, there has been memory in ChatGPT before. It's just been short form tokens. So it would remember sentences about you. It's like, this is David. He's this old. He's a male. He lives in this place. And it kind of has this general overview. But the new technology breakthrough is that it has the full comprehensive overview of inputs and outputs. So it's fully cohesive and like fully comprehensible of everything you ever said. But I think the reason why it's so big is because of network effects. And I've seen this pattern before and I'm seeing it again. And I'm like, oh man, this is a really big deal. The first time we saw this was kind of early social media days with Facebook and LinkedIn. And the value was in the social graph. It was the more users, the more nodes you had on this network, it would grow to kind of exponentially in an exponential relation with those people. A similar thing happened with Ethereum that we saw is the more users that we start to accumulate network effects through composability and on-chain contracts and how they stack on top of each other like Legos. And in this case, we see another form of composability, not through the social graph, which was about like who you know, but this
Mhm.
is more about who you are.
Mm.
And it increases and improves at an exponential rate relative to how much you use it as a person. So
Mm.
now this device or this new mechanism that you have that remembers who you are, it gets better with every single prompt you give it because it learns a little bit more about you. It learns a little bit about your preferences. And there's an entire stack that gets built on top of this that is reflective of the entire industry that I was personally trying to get away from, which is the advertising, data selling, like
Yeah.
that whole
Mhm.
world of Web 2. I was like, oh, maybe we'll have a new thing.
No.
In reality, it's just that old version on steroids. Now
Hmm.
they know who you know, but also who you are, your deepest secrets, your health results that you want to get like diagnosis on. I think this is really large, untapped industry. And I also think that it creates a moat for the first time. So now that OpenAI has all this data, it owns it in private. They're talking about creating sign-on with OpenAI, so they'll be able to license this out to third parties if you want to engage with other platforms. There's this whole world that they've just locked in because ChatGPT is the oldest and the most used version of AI. And
Mm.
they have the most users, they have the most data, and now they have wrapped a nice cozy moat around all of that for the company.
Okay, so here's how I'm interpreting this. OpenAI and AI models are sufficiently powerful that they are now unlocking capacity like left and right, and you're falling behind if you're not using AI. Therefore, everyone is starting to use AI. Meaningfully, more people are using ChatGPT. ChatGPT just has the most users, and then we've even learned that like maybe software developers prefer Claude, but OpenAI is getting like the lower hanging fruit, like more commoditized, less sophisticated types of queries, like, giblification of the internet. And what that means is like they're just capturing the most people because they are serving the most amount of people like what they want. And like, what does the average person want? They want to giblify the internet. And that's capturing the most amount of people. And now with this update, I'm getting this idea that like ChatGPT is like the moat that is established as one user has an ongoing relationship with ChatGPT is akin to the relationship that you have when you make a friend. And maybe that friend is super, you're just acquaintance at the very beginning and it's just super high level and, it's not really much lost if you never see that acquaintance again. But as you query more with ChatGPT, it is learning more about you. It's learning your behaviors. It's ingesting all the data that it can to be a better product. And as you use ChatGPT more and more and more, that relationship with ChatGPT because of this memory feature can elevate from an acquaintance to a friend to a best friend to like maybe your most important like second person because of all of the relationship that you have established with ChatGPT. Is that what you're seeing, Josh? Because that's what I'm getting so far from this episode.
Or even further, just to become the reflection of you. I know Ejaaz loves the agentic world, and there is no reason why over a long enough period of time, it can understand you so well that it can actually be a reflection of you, and it can go out into the world and engage with it as if it was you using agentic technologies. And it's like, it creates this really cool compounding effect that the more you use it, the better it gets. It becomes you, and it's the full embodiment, but a supercharged version with all of this intelligence that we get from these huge AI models.